The voice that you did hear of Hannah Anna is now in studio again. Welcome back. Lovely to see you again.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's great to be back.
And it's great to be back because I want to talk about artistic reinvention.
Yes.
Because that's where you're at. You released an EP that got tremendous response. We played pretty much every track off it here on Queer Radio. You had that work with Crimson.
Mm-hmm.
You had so much going on, and then you just decided pulling a plug.
Well, I decided to take a break. I think I got really burnt out, to be honest, by the end of that year. It was a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and also quite financially draining, to be completely honest. So
being successful was financially draining.
Yeah. I mean, it was successful in one way, but yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this earlier, thinking, do I say it must take a lot of courage to pull the plug? But that, to me, sounds really patronizing to say that. It's your own career, and you decide what to do with it. And if it's not working, walk away from it. Don't let everybody else tell you I must keep going. And I just was reading a quote of Kate Bush's from 1978, the year she broke, and EMI were pushing her to record, and her second album, Lionheart, came out within 6 months of her first album.
Oh, wow.
And she said to them, I have to stop, or otherwise I won't be able to write any more songs for you.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much after the third album, Never Forever, she was able to tell her record label, get stuffed. I'll release my records when I am ready. And I thought, that's I mean, she was 18 at the time, and she told them to get stuffed.
Yeah.
Because she would burn out.
Yeah.
Were you in a similar phase? Did you kind of just went, if I keep going, I'm just not going to be creative anymore?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I know myself well enough to know that when I stop enjoying something, then I also know I'm not going to perform well. And for me, what's the point of putting something out that I'm not proud of and that I don't want to stand behind? So it was pulling the plug in one sense, but I also am an entrepreneur in other areas. So it was sort of more of an organic shifting direction a little bit, knowing that I would come back to the music and come back to the art, but knowing that when I did, it would have to be from a place of really loving it, finding the joy, finding the spark again, and wanting to be at a place where I can put something out there and really stand behind it for the passion and the joy of it. And that way I'm not necessarily worried about, is it making me money, or, necessarily pushing it as a career.
What made that spark come back? What did you do that reignited your spark to be a performer? Because as you said, you do a lot of other things. You are an entrepreneur, you are a mentor, you are a creative guru, if I can use a really new agey way.
Oh, I like that. Alchemist, yeah.
But what gave you this, what kicked it back off again?
I am a very multi-passionate person. And I think what I have learned about myself is that if I isolate or cut off parts of myself, if I say I'm just a musician, or I'm just this, or I'm just that, always I reach a dead end. It's like it works for a little while and then I hit a dead end. So what I realized is I really needed to integrate all of the identities, and I needed to really honor that and embrace that as part of one larger brand. And ultimately that's what actually brought the spark back. I was continuing to record music throughout this whole time because that's something I actually really love. I love being in the studio. I love writing and creating music. So that part of it never stopped. It was just that I wasn't actually out in the world putting the music out there, talking about it necessarily. But it was when this integration of all of these parts of myself started happening that I kind of felt inspired of like, oh, okay, I actually want to be out in the world creating again and sharing it.
And there's also a sense of people who knew your work would go, oh, we haven't heard from you for a while. Because when I got your email, I went, Oh, we haven't heard from you. It was that. I was like,
Yeah.
and I did say to you, I was only thinking about you the other day because whenever I'm putting the show together, I always go back and look at our old episodes and saying, what are some music, what are some artists we haven't represented for a while that we can put in? And I'd go, oh, Hannah. And then 5 days later, up comes your email.
Of course.
Which was...
Wow.
I don't think there are no coincidences.
No.
It's
serendipity.
It's all
Totally.
manifestation from that.
Absolutely.
Tonight on Queer Radio, we have in the studio Hannah Rose Deacon, who is launching, or has launched, a new single. It's been out a couple of weeks. The EP Alchemy is coming soon. When is Alchemy due?
Well, there's going to be a second single first. So the second single will be September 2nd, and then the Alchemy EP will be in October.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the change of name, or was it something that you did you sit down with numerology? The deputy opposition leader apparently chose the extra S in her name because numerology told her so. Was it something like that, to go from Hannah Anna to Hannah Rose Deacon?
You know what? It actually was.
Really?
Yes,
Oh,
that
wow.
actually. Wow, you totally read my mind there. That was what initiated the change from Hannah Anna, because I actually did get the numerology done on that as well as some of my other business names, and it was not lining up. And it was interesting because the energy of that name was the energy of the struggle that I had been experiencing. So that's what initially kind of launched me into the investigation of what my new name is going to be. But I actually had a few different names before I landed on Hannah Rose Deacon. So, yes.
Where did the other two words come from, Rose and Deacon? Were they from just playing around with names?
Well, Deacon is actually my married name.
Right.
So I haven't legally changed it, but it is my husband's last name. So it's something
Does he now need percentages from everything?
He's listening right now.
Mr. Deacon, you have to take how much? 5, 10, 25% now?
Yeah, but so that's his name, and Rose is actually the English translation of my middle name at birth. So the middle name is Vartui, it's an Armenian name, and then Rose is the translation.
Wonderful. So let's talk about time, and then we'll have time to play time.
Yes, perfect.
It says in your briefing notes for this, it's a cinematic, sweeping. Were you watching something sweeping? Were you reading something sweeping? Were you on a mountain watching sweeping landscapes?
All of the things.
All of that came. All right, you were, I don't know, you were watching Gone with the Wind while reading
Wind in the Willows.
Wind in the Willows, thank you, Sam, on top of Mount Timbergargan.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, when I wrote it, it was one thing, but when I was in the studio and we were, my producer Joel and I were kind of coming up with the soundscape for this track, firstly, we were using my song Stay With Me from my debut EP really as one of our influences, because both of us really loved that song. It was my favorite song from the debut EP, and it was also quite popular. It did quite well with the audience as well. So we wanted to go more down that track, and I have always loved movie scores. Like, I love like deep, intense movies and soaring strings and piano. Like, that's just what I love so much. And so I thought the message of this song is quite intense. There's a sense of urgency to the song. Like, let's just go there. Let's go all out and really bring the drama. And my producer was very excited about it as well.
Yeah, lyrically, it's very dramatic.
Yes.
It wraps itself around, the lyrics wrap themselves around the tune, and the tune wraps itself around the lyrics. It's like a corkscrewing effect.
Yes.
It's quite something. Speaking of movie scores, would you compose for a score? Would you have the desire to write a score for a film?
It is something I have thought about. I would love to explore the route of music for TV and film. I don't necessarily feel I have the technical know-how in terms of the nuances of composing for film, but if I was able to get in the room with somebody or collaborate, I would absolutely love it.
Mel Brooks wrote all his scores by humming them.
Wow.
He doesn't write a note of music.
Huh.
So if Mel Brooks can write the producers by saying, say, I want a tune that goes like da-da-da-da-da, da-da, you know, it'll work. And there aren't enough female composers for film and television score. More are coming and more are being recognised, but it's still an area where female representation is almost...
It's true, actually. You're right, because when I think about all of the composers that I listen to, yeah, they're mostly, if not all, male.
Well, thank you for coming in tonight. It's
Thank
a pleasure to see you again. And we launch Hannah Rose Deacon onto the listening world. And this is time you will be swept away with this. Hannah, thank you.